Good evening and welcome to the Islamic House of Wisdom nightly Ramadan program. We're going to start with recitation of the Holy Quran with Ehsun Karimi بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Inshallah, I'll be reciting from Surah Ibrahim, Ayah 27. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ويضل الله الظالمين ويفعل الله ما يشاء. ألم تر إلى الذين بدلوا نعمة الله كفرا وأحلوا قومهم دار البوار جهنم يصلونها وبئس القرار. وجعلوا لله أندادا ليضلوا عن سبيله قل تمتعوا فإن مصيركم إلى النار. قل لعبادي الذين آمنوا يقيموا الصلاة وينفقوا مما رزقناهم ينفقوا رزقناهم سرا وعلانية من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلال. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you, Ehsun. And again, welcome, good evening, and welcome to the Islamic House of Wisdom nightly Ramadan program. And we thank you for being with us. I just want to remind you that the program starts every day at Islamic House of Wisdom at 9:30 p.m. And that starts with the Dua al-Iftitah. Then at 10 p.m. we start with recitation of the Quran and reflection on faith and our program. And today with us, Mahdi Elahi, to talk to us, to carry on with reflection on faith. بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. You, Sayyid Khalil.
Good evening.
Good evening. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. May Allah shower His blessings on His messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And his progeny, which includes the Imam of our time, Imam Al-Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Faraj al-Sharif. Brothers and sisters, panelists, Sayyid Khalil, Imam Elahi, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are now approaching the 10th of the holy month of Ramadan. And since I have this opportunity now, and because our guests in the upcoming nights are speaking in regard to the topic of the vital role of women in society, it is only right to recognize and commemorate al-Mu'mineen, Sayyida Khadijatul Kubra, mother of Sayyidati Nisa al-Alameen, Fatima al-Zahra, and the wife of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The Holy Prophet has stated that there are 4 women of paradise. Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, Maryam, the mother of Nabi Isa, Fatima al-Zahra, and Lady Khadija. She was the first woman to believe and support the Holy Prophet emotionally, physically, and financially. An esteemed businesswoman conducting trade from Ethiopia to Egypt prior to her marriage to the Holy Prophet, and held this name Tahira, the pure one, never compromising her modesty in a male-dominated society. But before we move on into our discussion, it is important to put something in parentheses about this noble character. Before we delve into this noble character, it is important to understand key things that occurred because of the propaganda that was pushed forth by the different governments that came after the death of the Holy Prophet. If we take a look at history, the very first thing that happened following the death of our messenger was the burning of hadith and banning of the narration and writing of traditions, even though Rasulullah emphasized the importance of narrating truthful traditions. And this was put in place from the time of the death of Rasulullah all the way until the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who ruled during the life of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. So over 100 years after the death of our Holy Messenger, the banning of traditions, the banning of narration of hadith was put in place. And you have to take a step back and ask yourself, why was this the case? Because if we want to be aligned with the common theme that has been discussed in the previous nights, which is reflection and thought, you have to take a step back and ask yourself, why would the government that followed right after the death of the Holy Prophet, why would they ban such a thing? Why would they ban the traditions of the Holy Prophet even though Rasulullah encouraged it? The reason for burning and banning narration of hadith put forth by those who came into power immediately after the death of the Prophet was that we don't want people to confuse Quran and Hadith. Interestingly enough, these same people quoted Hadith and narration when they tried to justify the taking of Fadak from Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra. But even further than that, if we want to follow the version of the narration of the Holy Prophet, who said, I'm leaving behind 2 things, Quran and Sunnah. If we want to follow this hadith, that the Holy Prophet said, I'm leaving behind Quran and Sunnah, then how come the Sunnah of the Prophet was forbidden to be narrated? This is something that we are paying the price of until today, where if you come and open up some of the research of the Orientalists of America, the Orientalists of Europe, they said there was nobody by the name of Muhammad. This person, Muhammad, that you claim, he didn't exist. It's somebody who was made up. And you come and you ask these people, how do you have the audacity to say that somebody named Muhammad was made up? They say, well, because narrations were made only 100 years after his death. How can we believe in the existence of such an individual when we only have traditions about him that came 100 years after his death? So you see, we're paying the price of this even until today. And this opened up a dangerous path that allowed those in power the opportunity to fill and write in history however they pleased. And even further than that, allowed for the justification of their actions. During the Umayyad and the Abbasid dynasty, narrators and authors were paid a very pretty penny to raise the status of certain figures while demeaning the position of others. What do I mean? Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan, the one who established the Umayyad dynasty, one day the adhan was being recited. And when the mu'adhin echoed, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Muawiyah, the father of Yazid, says, I'm going to bury this name. I can't stand how his name is mentioned after Allah. This is the same Muawiyah who some praise today because of the false traditions that he paid narrators to write to elevate his position and his family's. This is the same Muawiyah who said that Nubuwwah and prophethood was in Banu Hashim and now Khilafah should be with Banu Umayyah. It was just a power game to him. You know, Abu Huraira, who is considered by some to be the most prolific narrator of hadith, narrates that the Holy Prophet said, and this is, he says that the Holy Prophet came and he said that God has trusted three people with revelation: Jibreel, me, and Muawiyah. I wonder what God was doing for the revelation when Muawiyah was worshipping idols in Mecca. But nonetheless, when they brought the head of Imam Hussein to Yazid ibn Muawiyah, Yazid says, Banu Hashim just wanted power. They played around and claimed that there's revelation and there's something called the heaven, that there's something called the hell, that there's a concept of Yawm al-Qiyamah. These are all folk tales. Yazid is clearly expressing to you and I his belief system, yet today we find books titled Amir al-Mu'mineen Yazid ibn Muawiyah, Khalifatul Madloom Yazid ibn Muawiyah. The same Yazid who played with monkeys, who would take his monkey with him on top of the member, a drunk, committed zina, Khalifatul Madloom. That when his monkey died, he made them do ghusl for his monkey. They prayed Salat al-Mayyit for his monkey. They wrapped a kafan for his monkey. For 3 days, they canceled work and business, and people came one by one and sent their condolences to Yazid's monkey. This is Khalifatul Madloom. Today, we may come across certain traditions and narrations about our Holy Prophet that completely contradict the Quran. You sometimes come across something that says, Holy Prophet was one day leading prayer and he forgets what rak'ah he is on, and he leaves in the middle of prayer. Or that the Holy Prophet, astaghfirullah, his heart was literally impure. These same people who paid to downgrade the status of our Holy Prophet worked hard to downgrade the status of Amir al-Mu'mineen. But no matter how much they tried, no matter where they turned to remove the honors that Allah and His Messenger gave Ali ibn Abi Talib, they failed. So what did they do? One way to lessen the value of Amir al-Mu'mineen was to limit the traditions that he narrated. That Imam Ali over 30 years was with the Prophet, only 500 traditions was narrated by Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is the same Imam Ali alayhi salam, this is the same Ali ibn Abi Talib who the Prophet said, I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gate. But no matter what they did, their hands were still tied. They said, you know what, if we can't diminish Amir al-Mu'mineen's status, we will call his father Abu Talib a kafir. Yazid is a Muslim, but Abu Talib, who supported, raised and believed the Holy Prophet, he is a kafir. And the reason I bring this up is because it's important to realize that the same people who worked hard to fabricate about the lives of the Holy Prophet and his family also did the same with the wife of Rasulullah, Sayyidah Khadija. That today you sometimes hear claims that Sayyidah Khadija was 40 years old when she married the Holy Prophet, to which we know is false and contradictory. Or that she was married before the Holy Prophet and had children before the Holy Prophet. Why would they make such a claims about this honorable lady? Because to elevate the status of some of the other wives of the Holy Prophet. But putting this aside, How did Sayyidah Khadija marry the Holy Prophet? Where did this story begin from? Khadija bint Khuwaylid, after her father Khuwaylid passed away, he left an inheritance for Khadija. And what happened was Khadija was an investor. She invested money and connected with businessmen to conduct her business for her. And they would split the earnings. And something to keep in mind and something to realize is at a time where the concept of interest, sometimes banks today, they charge interest rates. This concept of interest was charged by investors, and it was a common practice during that time. But Sayyidah Khadija, even before the advent of Islam, just to illustrate her nobility, that when we give her the title of Tahira, pure, that even at a time that interest was a very prominent concept, Sayyidah Khadija didn't charge interest. And through the same way that Sayyidah Khadija conducted business, she was introduced to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where she was told that there's this man named Muhammad who is honorable, who is just in his character. And so Sayyidah Khadija goes and sends to meet this Muhammad. And after she meets our messenger, she decides to give him money to go and conduct business on her behalf. And before Rasulullah goes on his journey to Sham, Sayyidah Khadija sends her worker Maysara to analyze and pay attention to Muhammad very closely. Khadija tells Maysara, I want to see if what I hear about the nobility and character of this man is true. Because many times, even today, a father hears about the good character about a man who wants to marry his daughter. And then the father goes and does his research and realizes this man is shaitan is in the human form, that this man is shaitan reincarnated. So Sayyidah Khadija wanted to see, is this Muhammad, the claim that they make about this individual, is it true? Is he really of noble character? And so these two, Maysara and the Holy Prophet, go to Sham and he conducts business and he comes back with a substantial amount of profits. And putting the prophets aside, Sayyidah Khadija calls Maysara and asks her, what was this Muhammad like? To which Maysara responds that during trade, when people would ask the Holy Prophet to swear upon the idols, he refused. That one day when the Prophet was sitting under a tree, a monk came and said that by the Torah and the Injil, this man is the Prophet of God. That during business, he would sometimes separate from the crowd and go into isolation with himself. Putting money aside, it was the character and spirituality of our Holy Prophet who attracted a lady like Sayyidah Khadija, a lady who many proposed for her hand, but none were accepted. Khadija's interest in the Holy Prophet increased and proposed the idea of marriage to him, to which the Holy Prophet returns to Abu Talib, and shortly later they are married, and it is Abu Talib who recites the nikah. 15 years before the Holy Prophet announced his prophethood, he married Sayyidah Khadija. And Khadija turns to Rasulullah and says, whatever belongs to me is at your disposal. Use it in the path of glorifying Allah and spreading His religion. She gave it. Rasulullah didn't ask. And this is contradictory and contrary to what we see today. There was a very prominent businessman. He said that one day I went to a conference and the company was led by a lady. There was a lady who was the vice president executive of a major Fortune 500 company. And this businessman goes up to this vice president and says, how did you get here? Powerful, executive. How is it that a lady was able to attain such a position? And the lady turns around and says, well, I'll give you part of the story. She said, one day when I was a young mother, I turned around and I asked my husband for $10. And my husband turned around and said, what for? And the lady said, by the time that day was over, I promised that I would never, ever ask again. And you have a lady like Sayyidah Khadija, that the Holy Quran says, وَوَجَدَكَ آئِلًا فَأَغْنَى. That Allah is telling the Holy Prophet that we found you in need and we made you self-sufficient. That it was through Sayyidah Khadija that this religion was able to spread. The Holy Prophet would speak so highly about this lady that even after her death, people would come and say out of jealousy, forget about this lady, she was old. And the messenger would turn around and said, Allah never gave me a wife better than Khadija. She believed in me when no one else did, accepted me when people rejected me, and comforted me when others would turn their back on me. And one thing that stands out, and I'll conclude with this, one thing that stands out is that the Holy Prophet said, comforted me. And many times today when you ask, what is the purpose of marriage? The most generic answer that we hear is, well, I want to complete my deen. And although this is true, that marriage is the form of completion of deen, the Holy Quran says what? It says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. That you find comfort and ease in one another. That when you return home at the end of the day, you're going home to someone who believes in you and stands by you. A man walks into Masjid al-Haram, and he says, and he sees 3 people praying. And as he leaves, he comes across Abbas, who was the uncle of the Holy Prophet, and explains to him. He says, you know, I seen Muhammad, Khadija, and Ali, and they were praying with one another. And Abbas responds, he says, that person leading that prayer, he claims to be a prophet. That woman that you say is Khadija, that is his wife, and that Ali that you say, he is my nephew. I do not know anyone else on the face of this earth that is a follower of this religion except those 3. That no one stood by the side of the Holy Prophet but Sayyidah Khadija, but Amir al-Mu'mineen. That when the Quraysh boycotted the Holy Prophet and his followers, where no one was allowed to do business with them for 3 years, which led to difficulty and hardship to even have food, prices were raised, and Rasulullah and Khadija and his followers were living in the garden of Abu Talib, sanctioned. It was the wealth of Sayyidah Khadija that made it possible for the followers of Muhammad to eat and sleep comfortably, while she herself would at times eat grass. After the sanctions were lifted, Sayyidah Khadija became ill. And from those conditions, she calls Rasulullah. Could you imagine that Sayyidah Khadija is towards the end of her life. After sacrificing everything that she has, she calls Rasulullah over and she tells him, forgive me if I have done any wrong to you. If I said or did anything to upset you. Look at the character of this lady who sacrificed her health and her wealth for Rasulullah, for the sake of Allah. A lady whose wealth, if we want to compare it to today, is from the likes of Bill Gates. Yet when she died, Rasulullah did not have enough money to buy her a kafan. And Sayyidah Khadija, as she was dying, she had only one request to Rasulullah. She said, take care of my daughter Fatima. When Fatima al-Zahra was in the stomach of Khadija, and Khadija would enter the room, the whole time would end up respect for Fatima, who was in the womb of her mother. Look at the dynamic of the relationship of Rasulullah and his wife, of Rasulullah and his daughter. These are lessons for you and I, that when it comes to our relationship with our spouses and children, that it is one of respect and integrity, that we do not shame each other and insult one another, especially in public. The fate of a community rests on the shoulders of our women. Even Malcolm X, and this is my final point, Malcolm X, when he came back from his travels through Africa and the Middle East, he says, one of the most important things that I realized is that if a country is progressive, it's because the women of that country are progressive. If a country places heavy importance on education, it's because the women of that country are educated. Very early on did our Holy Prophet emphasize the role of women at a time where women were seen to have no value, especially in business and trade. There comes a lady like Sayyidah Khadija, breaking down barriers and stereotypes. And inshallah, in the upcoming nights, we have guest panelists who will further explain the important roles of women in our society and the necessity that they have in society, and especially in our faith, in our religion. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Ahsan, ahsan.
guests. Just wanted to give you a chance to say hello and bless our meeting.
I didn't hear you. Did you talk to? I couldn't hear you, said Khalil.
I just wanted to welcome you and ask you to welcome our guest and bless our meeting so we can start.
That's a pleasure to have Brother Nabih and Brother Nasser here, and inshallah, wonderful discussion. And thank you, Mahdi. You cover everything. Talking about Sayyidah Khadija, Sayyidatun Nisa al-Alameen, a woman of worship, woman of wisdom, woman of work, woman of love and sacrifice. You covered it greatly. So thank you. I just saved the time for our guests.
Sounds good. And welcome everyone. And I'd like to welcome our guests, Nasser Beydoun and Nabih. We're going to start with Nasser. Nasser is one of the most decorated businessmen in our community with experience locally, nationally, and internationally. His experience with the American Arab Chamber of Commerce, where he served as executive director, and various organizations, including connections to the Arab League, and with work with the Arab American Civil Rights League as well. Nasser, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Khalil. Thanks for having me, and thank you, Imam Elahi, for always being at the forefront of the community and doing what's right and being engaged and open to dialogue with not only our community, but outside our community.
Thank you.
Sometimes we don't appreciate the work you do, Imam Elahi, but we don't live in a cocoon or a bubble. We have to get our message out and get people to know us, who we are and what we are as a community and what we stand for. And you're always at the forefront. And I just want to give you a acknowledgement and a thank you.
Very kind of you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And we'd like you to share some of your experience, Nasser, and as an inspiration to our youth, specifically your knowledge about small business and the different thoughts that you have.
Also, my partner Nabih there. Want to say hello to him. I haven't seen him throughout this whole Corona virus.
We brought you together, huh?
Business, I think, there's certain people who are cut out to have businesses, because if you have a business, you have to be ready to fail, because, for every success you have, you probably have 10 failures. And there's an old saying, you don't make $1 million by working 40 hours a week. So you have to give business a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of patience, and a lot of hard work and dedication. And sometimes that could be at the loss and expense of having fun, doing family things. So, for anybody that wants to start a business, I would say, it's not about the money. Do something that you like, you enjoy, so that when you're working, you're enjoying what you're doing. And that's the most important thing to succeed in a business.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now you worked overseas as well, and you had different companies there. Is it reaching out overseas? Is it what do you need to be prepared for?
Well, my experience overseas with the Qataris wasn't a very
pleasant
experience.
Yeah.
In the end, you find out that there's no place in the world like the United States.
Okay.
Where you have, there's a lot of opportunity all over the world, but America is probably the greatest opportunity and the best place to start a business. And if you could do it here, I recommend do it here locally in this country, because you have a large market, you have a uniform market, you have the rule of law, you have people that you can do business with, you have banks, you have governments that you don't have to bribe to get your job done. So I recommend that if you could do it here, do it here. This is the greatest country in the world.
Absolutely. The current crisis that we're facing or we're dealing with, what kind of pressure is it really putting on small business?
Well, for instance, I own a restaurant, and right now we're closed. But even though my restaurant is closed, doesn't mean my bills have stopped. You still have to pay your gas bill, you still have to pay your electric bill, there's vendors you have to pay, employees that you have to pay. And unfortunately, with this stimulus package that the government has put together, it's found itself mostly in the pockets of large business, not small business. So, once again, the government has taken care of Wall Street, but neglected Main Street. And a lot of businesses are going to fail. A lot of businesses won't reopen because a lot of businesses can't sustain to be closed for 2 months or 3 months or as long as this takes. And unfortunately, the world after this virus is going to be a lot different than the world we saw before this virus.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very difficult to find support for businesses that have 1 or 2 or 3 employees. They seem to be unable to really find any help. What do you suggest and what you recommend they do?
Well, the problem we have is, these businesses that are mom and pop, we call them small businesses, they are the majority of businesses in the United States. And they create a lot of jobs in the US. Unfortunately, the government does not look at these businesses and say, we need to help them. They look at who can pay more in political donations, who has the better lobbyists. Those are the businesses that help. But for those small businesses to come back, they're going to have to double their effort. They're going to work twice as hard, probably borrow from family and friends because most likely the banks won't give them money. So they're basically starting from scratch again after this is over.
Sure. What would be your message for youth, specifically those who want to get into business and, and start something and follow their dreams?
Well, like I said, whatever you do, make sure you enjoy it. Do something you love, because you want to wake up every day and go to work and enjoy what you're doing. You don't want to be there thinking, I'm going to start a business just to make money, because those are the businesses that seem to fail. And the large corporations and the major success is done by people who enjoy what they do and are dedicated and give it the time and energy that it needs to be successful.
Yeah. In our community, there's a large number of small businesses. And what's your prediction? How is this crisis going to affect our community in particular?
Well, our community has a lot of small businesses, but most of those businesses are either like gas stations or restaurants or doctors or lawyers. We're not a diverse community when it comes to business. A lot of the gas stations and stuff like that will come out okay. The restaurants that serve our community are busy and they'll come out okay. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for us and it's going to be tough for everybody. And it's just going to be the environment that's been created post COVID-19.
Yeah. So you're also involved with the Arab American Civil Rights League. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, and then we can bring Nabih into the conversation as well?
Sure. The ACRL is a human rights, civil rights organization that was founded by Nabih, and I serve as the second chairman. He was the first chairman and the founder. And basically what we do is we work to protect the rights of our community. We make sure that the government or nobody else, or businesses, banks, Border Patrol, the U.S. Attorney's Office, do not impede our rights or trample on them. And for a small organization, we've been very effective in standing up for the community and defending the community against those who wish it malice.
Absolutely. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Nabih as well. Nabih Ayad is one of the most successful attorneys in our community and one of the hardest working people. Every time I go to a meeting and there is a meeting with the government, I find Nabih there. Nabih, welcome and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Khalil. I want to also echo what Nasser said. Thank you, Imam, for taking, being at the forefront of engaging not only our community, but the outside communities as well. So thank you both for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And if you want to stay with, if you want to share with us your thoughts and, you know, from the work that you do and from what we're dealing with right now and what can we learn, we appreciate it.
Well, you know, when we talk about civil rights, Khalil, you know, Nasser is the chairman of the board. He's been the chairman for the last 5 years. I am the founder of the organization. We started in 2011 because we felt that 10 years after 9/11 and the stigma that this community went through, I found that the Arab American was more hated 10 years after than immediately after 9/11. What that told me that signified a strong message that we're heading in the wrong direction. And we felt that we needed an organization that's going to be at the forefront, that's going to react to issues proactive, and an organization that has the pulse of the community and is not afraid to step in federal court and take what they feel is rightfully theirs from a civil rights perspective. So we started the Arab American Civil Rights League. We have one hell of a dominant board, a very prestigious board. We're doing some wonderful things. We've taken on the no-fly list. We've had the only no-fly list in the country, the original one that was that we were able to get the client off the no-fly list. One of the 2 major cases in the country. One was out of Oregon, and this one was out of here in Detroit. We were also able to change the banking rules in this Midwestern states, 14 states in the United States, when we took on Huntington Bank for discriminating against Arab Americans. We were able to change the banking discriminatory laws on that. And we had to always go all the way to the Court of Appeals in Cincinnati to address those. We're also taking on, more recently, Arab American Civil Rights League versus Donald Trump. As you know, the challenges with this administration and how it's affected and put a chilling effect on Arab Americans migrating to the United States. We have joined forces with the ACLU of Michigan, Arab Chamber of Commerce, Arab Chaldean Council, and other organizations to bring this lawsuit against the Donald Trump's executive order ban from the 7 countries initially. And that's still pending now. We have a good judge. The government has appealed the judge's decision. We're up before the 6th Circuit right now to address those cases. So every day, these are in addition to what we do on a daily basis when we attack these cases, whether it be an individual that's being kicked out of school because, you know, he has a Muslim last name or is being targeted by the administration, or an individual that's in medical school that they will not pass on because the professor just simply does not like Arab Americans. So we tackle these issues on a daily basis. Some of them are high profile, a lot of them are not, that we do the hard work that we do behind the scenes. So there are numerous challenges now because of, you know, civil rights always kind of takes a back seat when there are issues of war, issues of economic destabilization, or like situations right now when we're dealing with this global pandemic. Civil rights tends to take a back seat, but we can never forget the importance of civil rights and those that have fought before us for so long. And we come on the shoulders of those individuals that sacrifice so much for us to be here and be part of this great country.
Wonderful. And if somebody needs help, do they just call you? What kind of setup do you have if people really need assistance? And what kind of assistance, you know, exactly, if we can break it down, you know, if somebody's having a problem with immigration, with border entry, with, you know, what other issues?
Absolutely. They absolutely, Rula director, Rula Owen is our director for the Arab American Civil Rights League. She's also an attorney. And you can call the office. They were right there on Schaefer Road, and we're online as well on our website. And obviously, if you reach out to Nasser or myself, that we could easily take those or forward them on to our director. But, you know, we are taking many different issues that we deal on a daily basis. I know Nasser's just put something together right now on the knowing your rights when you enter the country, what you can and cannot do, what you can say and not say. And whether it be the amounts of money that you're holding, anything of that nature, with the U.S. forfeiture rules. So, you know, educating the community, protecting the community, We're at meetings, whatever it is that has to address the community. Nasser is the co-chair of Bridges. Currently, they will sit with the government folks every 2 to 3 months, and we address issues of concern with the community, whether it be questioning on the borders, whether it be the no-fly list, the watch list, and things of that nature. So we have these relationships with the government in order to be at the forefront and educate the community as what they can and cannot do, what they need to do, who they can contact, and how we go about this. Sometimes we can talk a lot, but there's a lot of times that we need to step into federal court and bring a lawsuit to address these concerns of the community, and we've done that. We've been successful at that. So there are those challenges that are out there, and we get calls from anywhere from students not being able to pass a certain grade because there was a bad professor. We got people that won't be hired because they're Arab Americans. We got people that won't be promoted because they're Arab Americans. We got individuals that can't get a job in government because of their Arab Americans. So we attack many of these things. A lot of times, because we're so everywhere, we have our hands everywhere, we're able to say, oh, we know so-and-so on this board and that board, and we can call them up and set the individual with them so we can try to resolve it without going into litigation or going to court or having a press conference of some sort. A lot of these things get resolved and backdoor deals to try and help the community just from the folks that we know. And the many folks we know, whether it be the Arab community, the African American community, the Hispanic community, and government. So we try to help. We have a lot of prominent individuals on our board that we try to reach out to them because they may know some individual that's on this board. They may know some individual that's on that board. So we're able to help them simply with the contacts that we have without the need to resorting to litigation.
Absolutely. And what's the cost of the people that call you, the average person? Is there any cost to them, or this is something pro bono?
Absolutely not. The ACRL is a nonprofit 501c3. We don't charge anybody to help them. I can tell you, Nasser, Rula, myself, numerous board members have spent many hours try to help folks and try to resolve issues for them with absolutely no charge on that. Now, there are some cases that we strictly don't feel it's absolutely a civil rights issue. For instance, somebody calls in and has some criminal matter, they've done something that violated the law. That's not necessarily a civil rights issue. That we have a group of volunteer attorneys that we can send them to. Some attorneys obviously will charge. Some attorneys will take you on pro bono if somebody does not have the money. We've taken on numerous cases in my office that were individuals that didn't have the money. The no-fly list was Israel versus Trump. We don't charge anyone for that. The watch list, we don't charge anyone for that. The banking closures cases, we did not charge the clients for that. Obviously, when we were successful, we were able to charge something, but that was after it's referred to the attorneys or what have you. But no, there is no fee to call the ACRL office for asking for help. If we can't get you the answer, we'll definitely lead you to somebody that can get you the answer. And we get calls not only locally, we get them nationally as well. So we may set somebody up with maybe an office, a civil rights office down in Texas, for instance, we done the other day, or an ACLU office down there, or somebody in government down there that could help them, or refer them to an attorney that could help them over there. So.
Just wanted to ask Nasser if he can share with us more about when Nabih was talking about what you're preparing to share with the community.
In what way?
He's talking about you preparing something about our rights and different rights and.
Oh yeah, we're basically preparing a document that we send out to people who are flying overseas on what they can. We're getting a lot of complaints that people coming through Customs and Border Patrol are getting harassed or asked questions that they shouldn't be asked. For instance, they might ask them, what mosque do you go to? How many times a day do you pray? Some of the questions are you green or are you yellow? If Donald Trump was standing in front of you, would you want to harm him? So there's a lot of questions that are being asked, and people, when they go through Customs and Border Patrol, are kind of intimidated by the agents and don't know what to do. So we put together a one-page document through the Arab American organizations that will disseminate to the community, that lets them know what they can do and can't do, what they can be asked and not be asked, how much money they can take overseas, how, you know, what the issues are, so that they don't go into a situation like that blind.
I think recently Imam Elahi went through a similar experience when he returned from a peace conference. And if I recall, is that correct, Imam?
And I want to thank Brother Nabih that was very courageous and aggressive, wrote a very, very strong letter. But obviously there are so much bureaucracy and, confusion among the agencies themselves. Things are really messy and chaotic these days. There was a tweet from the president, and I'm sure that both Nabih and Nasser noticed regarding this arm demonstration in Capitol here in Lansing. And when I read the tweet of the president, I was shocked. He said, the governor of Michigan should give a little and put out the fire. These are very good people. He's talking about these guys that they carried arms and they pushed through the facility, the building in Capitol, and they faced the police inside the building, and they were, slogans against the governor. So the president said, these are very good people, but they are angry. Safely see them, talk to them, make a deal. And, we had a discussion last night with Brother Dawood Walid from Clare, Michigan, that this kind of thing happen, and these are even illegal. I mean, forget about if another group had done such a thing, everybody was in jail probably by now. But I mean, we have a situation that the highest political person in the country consider those who are carrying the kind of guns that used in military. And with that kind of weapon, they go inside the place of legislation and they say bad thing about the governor herself, consider them very good people, and you have to make a deal with them and give them a little, so on and so forth. So somebody innocent comes through the custom from a peace conference and stopped for hours and hours and questioned in a very humiliating way. But now these guys can go and shout and say that, they want to even overthrow the government. I mean, even when the president says liberate Michigan, it's like an order of go and overthrow the administration over there. And there is no question and answer with this kind of people, and it is considered as freedom. I mean, obviously, freedom and democracy are part of our constitution, and they made this country very distinguished. And in our faith traditions, of course, freedom is a gift from God, both in Christian tradition and Islamic tradition and Constitution and Declaration of Human Rights. Freedom is a gift from God that is given to human being, and nobody should take it away. Imam Ali is saying that لا تكن عبد غير وقد خلقك الله حرا. So freedom is part of your creation. And we have even like a tradition from Imam Hussein that was talking to his enemies. He said, كونوا أحرارا في دنياكم. He is saying that even if you don't have religion, even if you don't have faith, and you don't believe in God and Day of Judgment, but if you believe in freedom, then you can be part of our dialogue. Like you are included in my camp. If you don't have faith in God, but at least faith in freedom. That's so important, whether freedom of thinking, freedom of expression, freedom of education, freedom in religion, religious liberty, which is, you know, a big value in our laws and regulations, this country. So freedom in any aspect of life. And was it today or yesterday that was even International Day of freedom of journalism or freedom of press? Although now even the president always says that, you know, the journalists are the enemies. And when they ask him in the White House, instead of answering the question, he put them down that you are fake news or you are a troublemaker or so on and so forth. So we are all talking about freedom, but this freedom is not respected all the time, or it is just for the poor, for the weak. They have to obey the laws and regulations, but people who are part of even militia, I mean, some of these armed protesters, they are Michigan militia group, and they feel freedom to say whatever they want, ignore the executive order, ignore the social distance, wearing no mask, coming in public and do a violation of everything that is about law and discipline and law enforcement and everything. So that is, I see it as something illegal, but I don't know that how come not even the media, some media, of course, you know, they feel that they are in a business of telling the truth, but not even all the media do such a thing.
Nabih,
I don't know, what is your
against the
take,
law?
both Nabih and Nasser, on these issues?
Yeah, is it against the law for them to carry weapons in the state, in the capital?
It's not. Unfortunately, it's not. Even though they have bulletproof vests on, they have silencers, they have you know, machine guns on them, they have all sorts of equipment, looking like they're about to, you know, go to war. You know, and you know, to echo the Imam's what he was saying. I mean, these individuals are basically Donald Trump's base. That's why he'll never target them. They'll always want them there, and this is very unfortunate. What you see is really just more politics being played out there to pressure Governor Whitmore, because she doesn't stand with Trump and his policies. Anybody that's against Trump, it's either you're with him or you're against him, and that's what you see playing out there. It's very sad to see that during a pandemic when you know, we are all going through this. You know, maybe some of her policies maybe went a little bit too far. That does not mean that you go out there and you publicly violate the governor's order and stand out there with, you know, machine guns and bulletproof vests and come in there like you're a SWAT team to take over the Capitol. So yeah, and his you know, his words of, you know, the president's words of using those types of words that only incite more violence and encourage people to be more bolder and stand up against government. It's reckless. It's absolutely reckless. Whether you're for him or against him, I don't care who's saying it. Somebody in the White House, when he has that platform as a leader of the most powerful nation in the world, goes out and says these things, it's a very, very dangerous precedence we're setting, not only for Americans, but for the whole world to follow. It's very, very dangerous.
You know, what Imam went through at the airport is really, you know, very offensive. What can we learn from his experience? What can we do or say, or you know, what are our rights?
Well, the thing I want to add is, you know, if it was a group of African Americans or a group of Arab Americans or Muslim Americans that had gone to the Capitol with their guns and their vests and did the same thing, would the outcome have been the same?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If that was Muhammad, Ahmad, or Ali up there, I can assure you they would have arrested them in 2 seconds and probably charged them with terrorism-related crimes. It's sad to see that, especially as Arab Americans in this post-9/11 era, for sure. But going back to your question, Khalil, as to what happened to Imam Elahi, I was outraged, honestly. I was truly, truly outraged. If they do it to one of our community leaders, one of our clergy, one of our imams, and a man that's so visibly out there, you know, doing God's work on a daily basis, speaking truth to power in public, on the media, and out there in the community, if they do it to him, we have a lot of damn work to be done when you consider that. What would they do to the average individual Arab or Muslim that's crossing the border? That's what outraged me. That's what caused the Arab American Civil Rights League to immediately fire a letter to them, call over the media and address these concerns. We were really, really ticked off about that. And I really have to, you know, Imam Elahi did not have to take this public and, you know, subject himself to this kind of situation in the media. But you know what, I applaud his courage, because he knew he was doing it for individuals that are much less fortunate than him and in our community. So we applaud him for standing up for that and then taking the initiative, say this is absolutely wrong, we need to do something about it in a very dignified and respectful way. We ask, you know, this has to stop. We need a full and complete investigation on this. It's totally unnecessary.
Absolutely. And I look forward to seeing the one pager that you guys are working on, because this is, you know, necessary and important. I hope that we can get a chance to also share it in our network as well, in our magazine, because we get a lot of questions about that. People really don't know what to do at the airport. They don't know what to say. They don't know whether they should give out their, you know, give up their cell phone or not. Or even at homes, you know, when people are asked to, you know, if they get a visit from one of the agents or the agencies, they really don't know what to do, you know, and we hope that you guys address that as well.
Well, Khalil, we've been working on that. Just so you know, we've sat multiple times. When I say we, me, Nasser, Rula, and the ACRL team sat with the senators folks from the highest ranking member now of the DHS committee, Senator Peters, and they flew the individuals out from Washington to address these concerns about, well, you know, your laptops and your phones and giving up the codes and everything of that nature. So we're working on national policy. They've read a letter from ACRL on the Senate committee meetings and what have you to address these concerns. We're working on those as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We really appreciate your interaction, both Nabih and Nasser, your courage and standing for justice and standing for values, both constitutional values and American values. A lot of ignorance is around that we really need to continue this interaction and bring the light of education among our nation, because for so much of propaganda, whether Islamophobia or Arabphobia or whatever, all this irrational fear and phobia around, a lot of people really don't believe that how we as Muslims, as Arabs, as minorities care for this country and love this country. And even the time that we may have a criticism that is a constructive criticism, that is out of caring, that is out of our love for this land. So because we are part of this nation, we are part of this family. Many of us came to this country long, long time ago. Our children were born in this country. So that is our future because of our children, my children, your children, every children. I mean, we are not talking about the children in my house that we are living under the same roof, but all children in Dearborn Heights, in Detroit, in Michigan, in every state of this country, all children are our children. And we care for their future. And we care for this country to be honored, to be respected, to be dignified. And that happens through a good leadership, moral leadership, that they really value the morality. And now the things that I mentioned last night, that's something real more dangerous, that the microbe of corona is the moral microbe. The moral microbe is now more dangerous than this physical microbe. And because we are suffering and the entire world is suffering from this moral element, that lots of lies, lots of misinformation, whether regarding the coronavirus or regarding other issues, that instead of everybody be united on the same page, working together with care and responsibility to win this war, now even coronavirus itself has become a platform for politics. So everything that has been said before being about this coronavirus is about next election now. And that is really scary. That is scary, that where we go from here. If this virus continues, as now we hear that it may continue for another 2 years, God forbid. If that is really the case, with all this contradiction and contradictory statements, like President Trump was saying today, that was it that he said another 90,000 people may die? I mean, it's different from what we heard a while ago. So the only way that we can win this war against this enemy called coronavirus is to be honest about all these issues and show moral issues, and not to cover our failures in this or other issue by making more problem. I'm scared that, they make another war in Lebanon or somewhere else, because, if the victory in election requires such a thing, and that is really something bothering, that's so scary, that more innocent people may suffer for political purposes, for personal purposes. So I don't know that you have the same feeling, the same fear for lives in this country, peace here and everywhere else, because the way that I see the situation, except people get united and think rationally and with deep loyalty and patriotism to this country, that they can, save us from a bigger headache. Otherwise, I see like irresponsibility in many areas.
It's just, thanks, Imam. Just, we're getting pretty close to 11 and past 11, actually. Just wanted to ask Nasser for any final thoughts, and then we get final thoughts from Nabih as well.
Just thank you for allowing us to be on the show, and thank you, Imam Elahi, for everything that you do.
And Nasser, by the way, regarding this $1,200 that was promised of the government, that everybody in our community and every other community was supposed to receive $1,200, and that was part of $2 trillion that was approved by Congress. There was something funny in the news that I heard, that there was a British lady who lives in Britain, but she used to work in America. She received a check of $1,200 from IRS, And she was surprised that I don't even live in New York anymore. I live in London. I received this money. But then a lot of other people, I don't know if our people in Dearborn, they received that $1,200 or still in a way, or who are the ones that they're supposed to receive it?
I don't know. I have no idea, Imam Elahi.
Yeah. It depends. It depends on the filing. You know, who filed, who didn't file, what kind of records they have.
No, I don't think it was filing. Isn't it that they said based on the filing of your tax document?
That's what I'm talking about. That's
Right.
Yeah, it depends on how people filed. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so.
And now from Nabih, any final thoughts?
Well, the final thoughts is this. First of all, I hope everybody stays safe and healthy during this, unprecedented times in our history. I think none of us ever thought that we'd be living through a pandemic, a global pandemic as this. But one last thought as to this community, being home to the largest concentration outside of the Middle East for Arab Americans, the Arab American is a proud Arab American. The Arab American is per capita the most wealthiest, the most educated per capita in the country. And we don't have to apologize to anyone about that, anyone whatsoever. And we must remember that democracy dies, all right, when all the good people don't stand up and do anything about it. So we have to continue this fight as Arab Americans, as Muslim Americans, as the great Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And we must stay and support one another. Stay tuned, stay apart. We are very proud. We have now U.S. representatives, Muslim U.S. representatives, Arab U.S. representatives, commissioners, mayors, solicitor generals, chiefs. The work that goes on, and we deserve our respect now. We've earned our respect, and we need to recognize that as a community and stick together as a community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your being with us, you and Nasser. And I'm going to ask Imam to lead us in prayer to close this session, please.
Thank you, Sayyid, and thank you, Brother Nasser Beydoun and Brother Nabih and Mahdi Elahi. A dua from Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Munajat al-Muti'in. اللهم احملنا في سفن نجاتك ومتعنا باللذيذ مناجاتك وأوردنا حياض حبك وأذقنا حلاوة ودك وقربك اللهم اجعلنا من المسارعين إلى الخيرات العاملين للباقيات الصالحات الساعين إلى رفيع الدرجات اللهم إليك شوقي وفي مناجاتك روحي وراحتي وعندك دواء علتي وشفاء غلتي وكشف كربتي فكن أنيسي في وحشتي وغافر زلتي وقابل توبتي ومجيب دعوتي اللهم أنت نعيمي وجنتي ودنياي وآخرتي. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات، وتابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات، إنك مجيب الدعوات وقاضي الحاجات، إنك على كل شيء قدير، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين. آمين يا رب العالمين. Thank you so much for participation and for your patience. May God be with you and يتقبل صيامكم وقيامكم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Imam. Thank you, Nabih.